Today I'm going to talk about getting started with macros and what macros are. So, macros, all of the food that we eat are macros. So, they're macronutrients. All the food that we eat is either made from protein, carbohydrates, or fats, or a combination of the three. And so, um, counting macros is focusing on how much protein you want to consume every day, how many carb grams you want to consume, and how many fat grams you want to consume. And the difference between counting macros and counting calories is that if you're in a deficit, which means you're consuming less calories than you're burning, so you're burning more calories, then you're going to lose weight. And that is true for counting calories as well as counting macros. The difference is that when you are only counting calories and you're not focusing on how much protein you're eating, then the weight loss that you may be having could be muscle loss instead of fat loss. You need to consume enough protein in order to maintain muscle mass. So to me, I want to hold on to the muscle that I have as well as build more. And so I wanted to count macros so that I could make sure that the weight that was coming off was indeed fat instead of muscles. So that's kind of like the basics of what macros is. And there's a couple of ways that you can start to count macros. So one way is, I've talked about her before, Elise Ellis. She has a macro calculator on her website, Macro Friendly Foods. So if you go to Google and you just type in Macro Friendly Foods macro calculator, it'll pop up. You'd put in your information and she'll give you like macro numbers. And that's just an estimate of what you should be consuming. And then the biggest thing is biofeedback from your body, right? So that's one way to like get your macros set for you. I actually paid for a program from the company iHeart Macros, and they set my macros for me. And that's how I did it. But it doesn't have to be done that way. The first step in counting macros is to download an app that you can insert the food that you're eating, and it'll tell you what the macros are. The app that I use is called Macros First. I have used MyFitnessPal in the past, and I like that one as well, but I like Macros First a little bit better. They make it really simple. You can even scan the barcode of what you're consuming, and it'll tell you exactly what the macros are for it per serving, and you can just adjust the serving for however much you want to eat. So if I was just getting started counting macros and I didn't want to pay anybody to set my macros for me, the first thing that I would do is I would download an app and just eat normal for like a week and track where you're at. And then I would take the average of those calories over those 7 days. So to do that, you would add up all of the calories at the end of each day together. So 7 days, 7 calorie numbers, and then divide it by 7, and that's your average of what you're consuming over a week. And then depending on your goal is how you would adjust that. So if you've been maintaining, those would be your maintenance calories. If you wanting to lose weight or go into a cut, then you want to decide how aggressive of a cut you want to go into, whether it be like 15% or 20%, and then just do the math there to figure out what your calorie count should be at for your cut. Or if you're wanting to go into a bulk, you would start consuming a little more calories. A bulk is when you want to put on muscle. In the process of putting on muscle, you need to consume more food. Otherwise, your body doesn't have enough nutrients in order to build those muscles as well. And so they call it a bulk. As you do that, you will also put on fat. So you'll build the muscle and you want to do it for like 4 or 6 months, a decent amount of time. Muscle doesn't get built overnight, so that takes a little bit longer, but like 4 or 6 months, and then you would go into a cut and lose the fat that you put on during that bulking process. Right now I'm in a cut, so I am consuming less calories than I'm burning, or I'm in a deficit. And the process that I've been doing is I've been trying to lose fat. And so I will stay in a cut for like 12 weeks or 16 weeks sometimes, depending on how I'm feeling. And then I'll go back up to my maintenance numbers. And a lot of it is guesswork. You will gain a few pounds as you go back up to maintenance, and then I'll try to maintain that for a few months, and then I'll go back down into another cut. So once you decide if you want to do a cut, if you decide how aggressive you want it to be, whether it be 15% or 20%, you multiply your average calorie number by whatever percentage that you want to take out. So like if you wanted to do a 20% cut, you would take your calorie average number and multiply it by 0.20, and that's how many calories you would eat less. And so that is the total, the caloric deficit that you would be in, and that's going to cause the weight loss. So when setting protein, I would use Elise Ellis's macro-friendly calculator and do the protein that she recommends. And then for me, it's easier to just let my carbs and fats fluctuate. So I focus on how much protein I'm eating and how many calories I'm eating. And then my carbs and fats are just the rest of whatever calories I have left over. And so that's how I would do it. And I have, ever since my initial macros were set, that's how I've been doing it. And just adjusting based on what my body responds to. So if I'm in a cut and I have plateaued for like 3 weeks in a row, then I drop my calories a little bit more, because my body is no longer thinking it's in a deficit. And the reason we don't stay in a deficit for too long is because it's hard on your metabolism. And so when you go back up to maintenance, your metabolism gets a break and it doesn't think you're starving. And so it won't start putting fat on because it's trying to protect you from starving. Our bodies are kind of cool that way. So that's how I would get started, is just, downloading an app, and in that first week, just track what you're consuming now. Eat as normal as possible to how you're eating now. There's no shame in this. There's no guilt in this. It's strictly data, just numbers, so you know where to start from. And yeah, so that's getting started with macros. And hopefully as we do that and just get started. It's kind of overwhelming a little bit at first, and there's going to be a learning curve, and that's okay. But if you never get started, you're never going to get any healthier, and that's my goal in this channel, is to encourage people to become a little bit healthier and a little bit stronger day by day. So yeah, just get started.